Nobody bonds with me. I'll be laid up in the dirt before you ever take it from me.
The following podcast features half-biased and controversial sports takes. All predictions are simply predictions, and we truly don't know what will happen. We will try our best to keep you entertained, but no guarantees. We appreciate you taking time out of our day to listen to our show. Much love, Ripper Brands.
All right. Well, how we doing? Ethan Rosenstiel, Elson Gratz. Welcome to episode 61 of the Ripper Podcast. We got a super exciting episode here. Eric Jubeck will join us in a little bit. Cheesemakers Athletic Director. Elson Gratz, how are you enjoying cold weather in Monroe? Public Library, live from the public library, I hear. How are we doing?
It's absolutely freezing. Honestly, I kind of love it. They got some snow in Tulsa, but come on, it's like 30 degrees here. This is the true Wisconsin experience. I am at a study room in the Monroe Public Library, so if you're watching from the library, come and awkwardly tap on the glass. I'd love to meet you. Yeah,
so are you saying that Tulsa has gotten more snow than what we have had up here in Wisconsin so far? Is that a reality?
Actually, I kind of think that they have, because it wasn't like they got a dusting. They got 4 or 5 inches. Nobody was really there to shovel it out, but because, it's Oklahoma, they're not expecting snow. They don't have plows and shovels and all that, but hey, Students don't have to do it. So my friends aren't really suffering either.
Good. A lot of stuff to get to. After we talk to Jubeck, we'll obviously reveal our high school basketball rankings. We got 3 games in the girls' realm, 6 games in the upcoming sports week, and the boys' basketball. So we'll talk and preview all of those. Then we'll get to a little bit of PGA Tour. Opening drive is concluded. We're getting a little bit of California swing, national championship game for some college football, and then a wild card weekend recap and previewing the divisional round games. So a lot of good sports to talk about. We're in the heart of it right now. Just want to start off and remind you to check out our merchandise store by scanning the QR code on your screen or by going to ripperbrands.net. Use code podcast for 10% off your next order. Again, that is code podcast for 10% off your next order at ripperbrands.net. So like I mentioned, we got a fun one, and Eric Jubeck going to be joining us now, Monroe Cheesemaker Athletic Director. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, a little bit of a technical difficulty, but hey, that's little adversity never hurts. So we're happy that you found a way and we're able to get the show on and have you on. Also, we're talking. We think this is the top 3 episode in terms of our guests being on. I mean, this is pretty big time, don't you think, Gratzy?
Speak for yourself, Eden. I was saying top 1.
Oh, okay. We're going top 1. Okay. All right.
Well, Elson, I will say, if I was at the Monroe Public Library, I'd be banging at the glass window there to kind of bother you. So I wish I was there to harass you right now.
I get that a lot.
Jubeck, talk about your first year as athletic director of the Cheesemakers.
Yeah, it's going well. I'm enjoying it. It's been fun to watch the sports and the activities kind of work their way through. Here we are in January, where winter sports seasons are busy, but what else are you going to be doing when it's what are we here right now in 10, 15 degrees, and we got some cold weather coming. So what better is there to do in the winter than be doing sports, and things are going well.
Yeah, for sure. So first year for you in the new role, what's something that you learned or kind of figured out throughout the process of the fall sports season?
Yeah, just that all that goes into scheduling events. I didn't realize that essentially you're planning a year out, a year in advance, and so this time of the year, essentially our fall schedule for every sport is ready to go next year, and for some sports, honestly, it's even 2 years out. Yeah. And so this time of the year is getting ready for next year winter already, getting officials lined up and working with other schools and athletic directors for what their schedules look like when they can compete with us. So it's I didn't realize how much planning that far ahead the job really is.
Yeah.
So if you remember last year, I proved in debate format that you would win a battle royale style fight among all high school staff. How much do you think that helped you secure the AD job?
Yeah, I think it was a few people that would have been close for the position, but because of my ability to what beat up every other person. I think that's why I got the job. But no, but so you said that, but I was confident that there's a handful of people that are significantly tougher and stronger than I. So I think that what came out of that for me is that you overrated my strength and toughness there, Elson.
Humble dude. You're welcome, by the way. So now that you got the AD job, what does a day in the life of the athletic director look like? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to keep things running?
Well, so that's probably one of my favorite parts of the job is that every day is my least favorite part is I don't spend as much time with interacting with kids as I wish I did. But one thing I really enjoy is that every day is so different. So like today I spent the day in Clinton with the 10 other athletic directors in the Rock Valley Conference, essentially trying to figure out, let's see, what was kind of like what the wrestling tournament is going to look like for the 11-team conference. How to ensure that girls wrestling is one of the fastest growing sports in the country. In Wisconsin, it's probably that and lacrosse are the two fastest growing for sure. And so trying to ensure that when we set up the conference meet, that we are giving as much, time and energy to the girl side of things as the boy side of things. So creating a schedule to ensure that the girl side of things is equivalent to the boys. So that was something that I never would have thought would have been an important thing. And it is because it's neat to see and in fact, for Monroe too, we've got a couple of excellent girl wrestlers. So today that was just one of the topics that came to mind right away. So every day is very, very different. Tomorrow again, wrestling is the theme because tomorrow we have our first home wrestling event, and the wrestling event is in the PAC. So ensuring that is up and running and good to go. So like in the gyms we use so people that aren't there can watch it on Huddle, but in the Performing Arts Center it's through YouTube. So just kind of working out the logistics of the technology to make sure it works. That's kind of what I've been working through today. So what makes it neat is every day is very, very different from every other day.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit of football now. So obviously, WIA, the competitive balance in terms of for the football Cheesemakers was directly impacted by moving up to Division II. Had a successful season, won the conference, ended up getting the 2 seed in Division II, and then lost in the first round. What are your thoughts on the competitive balance? Are you pro or con, or do you have any potential solutions of how it could be changed for the better?
I mean, that's a loaded question. Each sport is different in their needs. The competitive balance tried to help address the lack of fairness for some of the issues in the sports. It essentially was created to ensure that programs that are able to recruit private schools that kind of play by different rules than public schools have to base their ability to be successful more than just their enrollment. And so that's where it's coming from. And I know the WIA gets a bad rap, but the reality of it is the WIA only gets to do what's voted on by the athletic directors. So it's easy to blame the WIA for the issues, but the reality of it is every single thing that WIA does is because it's been voted on by a majority from the athletic directors. So yeah, it was unfortunate that Monroe was moved up to Division II because of the community that Monroe is. I'm in agreement. I don't love that we were in Division II last year, clearly. In each sport's different. I'm thrilled that we're going back to Division III. And it was tough. We had a tough draw with Elkhorn, which is essentially a mirror image of us, but instead of being 700 kids, it's 1,100 kids.
Yeah.
So in football is also unique because every 2 years, this is what makes football is the only sport that does this. Every 2 years, they go back to the drawing board and they say, let's look at conference realignment. So conference realignment is more of the issue than competitive balance, honestly. Because when you're doing conference realignment, there's going to be a bunch of schools that are going to argue for a multitude of different reasons for why they think they should be in a different conference or, what's the fairest look. So the conference realignment is going to be coming out, probably, I'm guessing later in the spring for what it's going to look like. So I don't anticipate us moving. I would assume the Rock Valley is going to look very similar. But the conference realignment issues is something that you probably want to spend a little more time looking into when that information comes out. That's the angle that's probably the most interesting. Competitive balance for cross country is going to be interesting because that's going to be on the docket for the every year in Stevens Point, which is where the WIA headquarters is located. They have an annual meeting for all athletic directors, and cross country is the sport that they're initially looking at Ford, talking about competitive balance and determining if it is the right decision or if we want to look at different things. So competitive balance isn't going anywhere for football for a while. Yeah. But they're looking at for how you qualify for playoffs. That is discussed. They're looking at a model for I believe it's Ohio has a different kind of methodology than we use, kind of based on where you're dividing up by enrollment before the season starts. Because right now in Wisconsin, it's the teams that qualify for the playoffs for each division, and then you divide them up afterwards based on who qualifies. And they're talking about moving that to the beginning of the year and saying, based on enrollment, the largest 32 teams are in Division One, and then all the way through. So it's more of a conference realignment piece than a competitive balance piece, honestly.
So two questions I got brewed up from that. So number one, so for Cheesemaker football, I believe it's 7. You have to have 7 points to have to jump up, correct? Is that the number?
Correct.
So, and it's every 3 years. So now that the level 4 run in 2022 would be out of the picture. And so how many points are we at now? And is there like a specific result, like a specific point that this upcoming year, if they get, say level 3 or something, at that point, are they back up to Division 2?
I believe because we have the 4 points from our state championship off the docket, that I believe that it would require a couple years in a row of either kind of state semifinal or state champion to get us back up into being in Division 2. So I think for football, we should be where we belong based on our enrollment for a handful of years, unless we have 2 years of quite the run.
Yeah. Okay. So then the other question is, you mentioned some of the meetings with all the athletic directors and how that directly impacts the decisions that WIAA makes and how that can create a little bit of bad rap. I'll admit, we're culprits of that as well, complaining about the WIAA moves, especially because of the direct impact, I guess, for Cheesemaker football specifically, and that kind of whole topic. But you talk about the meetings and how maybe the conference realignment is more so the topic of concern compared to competitive balance. Is there anything else in those meetings of like something to that multitude that is discussed that might be kind of a hypothetical right now that could be something in the future?
No, I mean, the goal in those is to be as practical as possible. Because again, this came from the idea that saying, oh, wait a minute, why are the same schools qualifying? Like Illinois is a state that's worth paying attention to, specifically with football for this past year. I don't have the exact number of divisions because we're in Wisconsin, not Illinois, but the percentage of students or percentage of schools that won state championships that were private schools in Illinois, it might be 100%. It might have been every single one. Or the way that they were able to have some of their schools, was it Lena lost in the state championship game to a school?
I believe they lost state champ. Yeah.
To a school that's a suburb of St. Louis on the Illinois, on the eastern side of the Mississippi River in Illinois. And that school, they essentially had free agents that played for them. So what happened in Illinois, the whole Wisconsin was trying to ensure that those type of things weren't happening. And it comes from athletic directors that then advise the WIA what they want to have happen, and then it needs to be voted upon. So it's easy to blame the WIA. But the reality of it is they're not the ones that their job isn't to make up rules. Their job is to kind of create an infrastructure to allow the majority to rule what it looks like.
Is there a quick question though, before Elson gets to another one? Is there any talk or any alignment in terms of potentially creating a specific conference for private schools and something like that?
No, that existed. That was a thing for a long time. When I was younger, I want to say when I was kind of I don't remember exactly when it was in the 90s. There was an entirely separate playoff structure for private schools.
Really?
So again, I couldn't tell you the year breakdown at all. So that existed. So no, they're not looking to do that. But again, this was created because of the concerns that came for how private schools can essentially, compete with larger schools because of how they can pull from, larger urban areas and essentially play by different rules. And I'm not a private school hater at all. Like, good job private schools for being able to do it. They're not breaking any rules.
Right.
We're just trying to create systems to, have a little more of a level playing field.
Gotcha. All right, Elson, take it away.
So you've gotten into this a little bit already, but you're a guy with a lot of great ideas, I know. What is something new you're looking to bring to Cheesemaker Athletics?
Well, there's a couple things that I have, to be honest, because it's my first year, I'm just trying to stay above water with scheduling and trying to, support coaches and just, support athletes and just kind of be around and I love sports and I'll say also, I firmly believe that just being involved in the school community is important. So I don't care what you do as a student. So I'm just trying to help support, coaches, students, and advisors for the different clubs. But there's a couple things that I know over the next year and a half that are going to be a big part of what I'm doing. We just kind of started it is one is to kind of to look to revamp our strength and conditioning program as we move into a new school. Like football's done a really nice job of ensuring that all athletes in the football program buy into the lifting program.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with our current weight room, of course, but when we go to a new building, we're gonna have a gorgeous facility. The weight room is incredible. Like I had the privilege week before to go up with Coach Bassett and Coach Herbst, the PE teacher Herbst, not football coach Herbst. And we toured Madison LaFollette's weight room, and I remember going, "Oh my gosh, this is gorgeous!" And then realizing that we're getting that, but ours is actually 30 feet longer than what they have, and the gorgeous stuff they had. And then we had the opportunity afterwards to go and tour the new Baki Center in UW-Madison and to see what's happening, and kind of saying is that as we get a new weight room facility, what are we going to do to ensure that we have students that utilize it? And so we're kind of looking to revamp that, get a bunch of coaches to be involved and ensure that when the new school comes, that we have the best practice lifting, not just lifting. It's important to do your kind of functional fitness and stretching and band work, and your core strength is such an invaluable part. So we're kind of looking at how can we revamp that to support all sports and to ensure all athletes are lifting. So we've got a really neat group of coaches that are involved in all sports to see what that can look like. So the whole "if you build it, they will come" concept for lifting. So that's been a fun. We're just getting started with that. We're going to start meeting with the coaches that have said they want to be involved in that. And the other one that's really neat that I'm really excited about is Monroe High School doesn't have a Hall of Fame, which is a travesty considering that we have if you look at across the board, the athletes and the programs and the success that we've had is it's unparalleled. Honestly, in the state of Wisconsin, there are very few schools that have had more success across more sports than us. Now, in the current era, you always go through ebbs and flows of success. But if you look at what we've done in essentially all sports, it's incredible. And then in the new school, we're going to have an area kind of close to the entrance to our new fieldhouse facility that is dedicated to have a giant touchscreen TV and some kind of trophy cases next to it. And then within that touchscreen TV is ensuring that we have a really neat Hall of Fame that will honor our successful athletes and our successful teams and coaches and programs. And so it's there's a group of similar, not the same people that were involved in the lifting side of things, but probably I think there's 10 to 15 coaches and community members that want to be involved in that, engaged from the beginning to ensure that we honor our former and current athletes. And I just presented this information to our booster club in a meeting last week, and because we lost a gentleman just passed away last week by the name of Bob Endergreg, who was a basketball player. I'm sure he's a multi-sport athlete, but I just know for sure basketball. And I think he graduated in 1957 or 1959, and he went on to play college basketball at Michigan State, and he helped them to their first ever Big Ten title, 2 years. And he was a captain at Michigan State, and he was drafted by the New York Knicks. So You guys probably didn't even know that. Maybe you did. Did you guys know that? Are you aware that there was a player in the And so most people wouldn't be aware of that. So how can we ensure that we honor, our former athletes and kind of create this infrastructure to take place? So also, if you guys are interested in being involved in that, I'd love to hear as we move forward. I will communicate this information with you guys. So those are the two main ones, is to kind of revamp to ensure our strength and conditioning lifting program matches our beautiful facility, that we get all athletes to be involved in part of it, and then the Hall of Fame stuff.
Yeah,
I
that's
got one follow-up question.
Yep.
So first of all, when I was asking a question like what new things you're looking to do, I didn't think I was going to get answers that solid. I think that those are two really cool directions to go in.
No
But
doubt.
then second, with the strength and conditioning focus, was that an extended shot at cross-country runners?
No, for sure not. And see, but that's what's important. Like football has been excellent on their kind of explosive, your Olympic lifts, your deadlifts, your squats, your benches, and of course that's important. But the reality of it is, most sports don't require those lifts to be successful. Cross country would be more dealing with your hip mobility, your flexibility. So when I'm talking strength and conditioning, I'm not talking just lifting. I'm talking ensuring that your athletes, because you're right, our best athletes in high school, a lot of them, yes, football, of course, but a lot of our best athletes aren't football players. And so to ensure that they're understanding their body and the movements that are required to be even more successful, at a high level with our new facility. Again, we're having a massive upgrade to our weight room, but right next to it, we're having kind of a rec room that will be used for both dance and wrestling during wrestling season. But that entire space is going to be able to be utilized for all of our athletes. So it's great to have the space, but if you don't have a very detailed and specific, plan for how your athletes are going to utilize it, then it's just going to go to waste. And it's going to be again, not a wasted space, because it'll be utilized by some of our athletes, but not utilized to the extent that I'd like it to be seen.
Yeah, and I can kind of talk to that a little bit in terms of like the football program, because I think, like you mentioned, like the structure and expectations are two important facts of being successful in that realm. Because football specifically, we had the off-season lifts, and I believe that was ran through as like a summer school program, because there were a couple of non-football players in there. Most of them had some sort of tie to the football program, but they probably 95% of the players in the football program were partaking in those lifts, and they had the afternoon slate for workers and there's early morning one for kids who had to go to work and do whatever. But like the off-season program is very sophisticated. Every day you have a specific strength and a program or something, a focus, and then getting into the season, there's also a program. I think it was 2 days a week that we would go in, Mondays and Wednesdays, usually Mondays before practice, Wednesdays after. And so when you have that sort of program, it not only does it build the strength and everything all the benefits you get from working out, but it also builds like a sort of culture and a sort of standard for your program. And I think that's a great thought process on that, because if you can incorporate that, and like you mentioned, not every sport's built on strength, powerlifting or different type. I mean, everything's different. And so if there's that type of standard and them expectations, I think that go really, strongly for each of those, respective programs. But let's talk a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to your point, like that's the strength of what football does. Like what football has created is that I'm not going to be critical of the lifts that football has, but most of the other sports have very similar lifts for what, not the lifts, but lifts and movements and understanding of how the body works and the mechanics. Where what football has done a great job of is understanding that the best ability is availability. So the kind of the essentially peer pressure and forced, hard work and lifting and culture that football has created. It just, how can we create that with other sports, knowing they have other needs? So I'm impressed with football, but I want to try to replicate that culture that you just talked about for expectations outside of the season. I know, Elson, you said that I had a shot for cross country. No shot for cross country, because cross country, outside of football, cross country has done as good as any of understanding the outside of season work that's expected and the culture that's created for what you need to be successful, but in such a different level. So how can we kind of combine all of that to ensure our kids spend more time being involved? But I'd argue the culture side of things is more important than the thing that you actually do, because once kids buy in, that's where success happens.
And a huge part of that's the accountability aspect too, like getting up every morning at the same specific time, or going to work 8 hours for the entire day and then having to go lift afterwards. Just the accountability, and that replicates and transforms into the season as well. You mentioned some cool things with the Hall of Fame aspect and the rec room and the weight room facilities. Talk about, kind of the scope with that. What are some of the plans over, high arcing thoughts and plans for like the athletic department at the new school?
Yeah, it's gonna be gorgeous. I'm super excited. It's really nice to be able to have, most of our sports, obviously, hockey, there's no hockey rink.
Yeah.
There's no pool, so those sports is always tough. And I mean, I understand you're not going to get those because a pool is super expensive. How glorious it would be to have a pool, and how amazing to have a hockey rink on the facility. Both those are great sports, but besides those, like we're really blessed to be able to have all of our other sports in the same complex. I'm very happy for softball to be able to kind of be back on the on the grounds. We're gonna have a really nice facility with softball and baseball. Having 8 tennis courts can be really neat. We know that our tennis has done an incredible job for getting both numbers and success to be where they need to be, and then having a full soccer or as we like to call it, a full real football. I'm not talking American football. We're talking real football facility. We're having a full soccer field where you can host playoff games and don't have to go to Honey Creek for that. And then we're having a second full soccer field to be able to kind of hoping to get some tournaments going there. And then having a turf facility there is gonna be really cool. And then having the 4-unit indoor field house for volleyball and for basketball. And so it's it's gonna be great. There's really it's in South Central Wisconsin, south of Madison. It's I don't even know. It's arguable. It's the best facility that's going to exist. Within a 30-40 mile radius of where we are. So I'm looking forward to all components of it. If you have any questions for any of the specific parts of it, I'm certainly happy to answer. But we're very blessed to have what we're going to be having.
Yeah. So
Can you make me 2 promises real quick?
Go ahead.
Promise number 1: the varsity baseball field's got to have lights, right?
So that's kind of the next phase we're looking to do things is right now is the new school with $88 million. That's a chunk of change. But then once we realized that you would not believe how much money it costs to create a turf and a light situation. So even if we don't get the things, we're going to start kind of right now being aggressive to see if we can't get some additional funding to make these things happen. That's kind of the work in progress right now. So let's have this. I'm happy to come back anytime, but let's have this meeting in 3 or 4 months so I can give you some more updates about that. But even if the lights aren't happening now, we're going to create the infrastructure to ensure that fundraising can happen to then be able to put lights at a later time. So I'd love to have that. Because yes, we want our facilities to be for the high school athletes, but we also want to have facilities for our community and our youth to be able to use and being able to have, all summer long to be able to have a bunch of events planned and going on, then having lights is an important part of that. So again, there's some moving parts of that I really can't speak too much of because it's a work in progress, but obviously I'm doing, everything that in my power, not just me, but everybody that's involved to get everything we possibly can, because that's the whole point, is to have great community resources and ensure we have the best possible.
I'm willing to negotiate here. Easier promise. JV field, got to have an outfield fence, right?
There will be your kind of typical clover, your kind of clover leaf situation with 2 softball and 2 baseball. That is definitive, and the whole thing is going to be. Well, the other thing too is like, I think it's important to always be able to host playoff events, and WIA requires to have a fenced-in area to be able to have playoff events to be able to charge. So yes. There will be 2 baseball and 2 softball that will be completely enclosed to ensure that we can host playoff events.
That makes me happy on the inside.
I believe you.
So this is the new school is super exciting for me because one, especially this conversation, because one, it's combining sports and then also combining a passion of mine, which is architecture and building and those types of things. So I'm super fascinated to be able to pick your brain about this, and we could probably talk about this until morning, until Jubeck said I could wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, get the students ready to go open that door for him for a little Thursday action at school. But so I want to talk about one of the points you made earlier in terms of wanting to be able to host the events outside of high school athletics. And I think one thing kind of early on that I heard was kind of a priority, especially when you think about like the 4-quad for baseball and softball. Like those types of setups are going to be good for the youth sports, and then additionally just honestly any community sports. Talk about kind of that effort and maybe some things that you might have took into consideration that are a priority to make that something that can kind of happen, because I know like baseball specifically, we have plenty of youth baseball, softball fields throughout town, but there is not another full-sized a full-size baseball field in town. So like having that kind of luxury as a part of that facility, I think is going to be important. So talk about kind of that aspect for the community.
Yeah, I mean, those decisions for what does it look like were made significantly, way before I've been around, right?
Okay.
But the idea that ensuring that we want, the community to be able to utilize it is an important concept. And even with our current facilities, like I actually spend another thing that I spend a fair amount of time by doing would be like I've got the old Google Calendar that just ensures that our gyms and our outdoor facilities are be able to utilize for the youth. So essentially, if you're a community organization and you're supporting Monroe youth to help then eventually a feeder program for high school sports, then we try to be very, very supportive to ensure that you can use our facilities. And where our only cost would be the custodial staff to make sure everything looks good. So as we transition to the new facility, then that's definitely a priority to make sure that the facilities are being used, taken care of. We're blessed in Monroe to have our youth baseball program in Aces and our softball program in Queen of Diamonds, and then the basketball side of things, and volleyball's got some really neat some youth stuff. I'm really excited what volleyball's looking to do, and you name the sport, and the Monroe community does a nice job of trying to promote it at a younger level. And so as we've done a good job with this school, and I'm looking forward to ensuring that transitions to the new school.
So I briefly want to kind of touch on some of the individual aspects of the department. So starting with the gym. So you mentioned it's a field house setup. There's 4 spots that I'm assuming combined into one main area for a varsity basketball game or something. What's the setup with that? And I guess in the 4 spots like that, you can host, because I know right now like boys and girls basketball have to do a late and early type session. I believe like that, I'm assuming that will be kind of solved and everyone can kind of go right after school.
That's a good question. I'd anticipate it still to be an early and late setting. Just based on numbers. If when you're looking at the boys program right now,
there's 3 teams, I suppose.
Yeah. So I don't see that changing that much for the early and late, late structure. But for be able to host youth events, we'll be able to. We'll have for sure. There'll be 4 courts that are going. I know that so it's 4 courts going the kind of, it's gonna be a rectangle, the 4 courts going, the long way, but then there's also gonna be kind of 2 main courts where you'll have your varsity court and your JV court. And then for how, we'll kind of brainstorm and talk about those, what's gonna look like for how practice works. But there'll definitely be more. The reality of it is at our current facility, we do have 2 different gym spaces, which is actually pretty nice, right? To be able to separate it entirely. Because when you have coaches like me who are super loud, then you're just screwing everything up for how loud you are. Right. So we're not gaining that much more in kind of practice space. So we'll still keep early and late, but we're going to gain more for game situations, and it's going to be a great setup. And it was really neat too. Is like our current gym is gorgeous. Our current gym is really neat, and I'm going to miss it because there's so much history and kind of culture of Monroe from it. But the worst thing about that is that it's bottom loading, meaning when you walk into that gym, you're there and you're kind of annoying the flow of the game.
Yeah.
Like we just had a boys game. We had a youth night, whereas all 3rd through 8th grade boys basketball players are there, and those little children had no idea how disruptive they were by literally walking behind. They're walking behind the coaches, and so the new setups can be great because you're coming in from the top. There's kind of a walking track that goes around. You can watch from up there, and you're kind of walking down, and then when you leave, you go back up. So you're essentially never going back down on the surface. So like that's the beauty of it. No, it's a great. When you build something, anew, you're gonna think of all of these things, right? The engineers and the architects, like that, they thought this through to ensure it's not just kind of a, let's just throw it together. But no, let's do what other schools have done that they've agreed upon. That's what's been kind of cool with this process is, yes, we have ideas, but people have been doing this a bunch of times. Let's take their advice for how to do it.
I think that's an interesting point. I think that's something that people that, residents of Monroe and, there's something that they might not potentially see because there's so much. Even when Elsa and I were still in high school, I remember hearing different visits to different schools or hearing setups, not athletically and academically, that, taking ideas from other successful places in terms of how it might apply, I think it's real in this process. And I think that's something that outsiders from that process might not really kind of catch in a way, because there is so much thought and process that's kind of going into that it does provide a lot with that. Football stadium mentions turf. I got to ask, the lights, are they like the flicker cool ones? Or are we going anything normal? And the other question with that is the understanding that I was the Jumbotron that's at the school is going to go to the new school.
Yeah, I don't know the lights, to be honest with you. I know that like the lights throughout the entirety of the school. I would just, my youngest child just had a basketball game. Where was their day? And we went to the gym. We're like, oh, look at how nice these lights are. Look at the LED lights. Look how much cheaper they're with electricity. How right? Like how much longer they last. So like, I don't know the specifics of the lights, but I know that they will be, nicer and newer and easier to deal with and navigate. And so all of that stuff for sure. And yes, the beautiful new scoreboard that we have in the sound system, and that's actually really nice too. So that is all coming with us for sure. It's been neat to see. We worked hard this last season to kind of start to use the video side of things more, and we've got a couple of people that have really learned how to navigate that system. So yeah, that is all coming with us for sure, and that's neat because it's not a new expense because County Brands donated that a couple years back. And so to be able to take that with us, it's cool to watch when it doesn't matter the sport, but when coaches and athletes come, it's fun to be. They're like, oh, look at it. I said, yeah, we got a great score. Oh, how'd you get that? I said, well, that was a donation. So if you guys want it, good luck fundraising for that bad boy. So we are very blessed to have that, and yes, it's coming with us.
Awesome.
How do you move a scoreboard? Throw it in the back of a pickup truck?
Yep. Just a pickup, or we get some kids to kind of carry it over. Yeah, that's not a cheap process because they said that in order to kind of get that where it was, that there's giant steel bars that go way down, so it's not going to be an easy or cheap process. We've been kind of discussing where we're going to put it. We're going to put it all the way across. We put it one of the end zones, like kind of what's the best angle where it's going to be. So that's the conversation piece with that.
Ethan, you remember dragging the bleachers down for baseball to be our dugouts?
Yeah, JV baseball, a lot of manual labor that went into maybe winning a game or two at that time. But yeah, a lot of hard work. Not only the bleachers, but we had the dugout benches a little bit. There was a lot of maintenance that went into that field. I'm happy.
I'm feeling some nostalgia. I think we help out. I think we put in the hard work here.
We'll find ways to ensure we have some misery to make the young kids work hard. We'll give you guys that. All right.
Thank God.
What's just a side note, like Abe Lincoln Field, is that going to remain the same? What's the plan with that? Is that going to be different or?
Yeah, both Abe Lincoln Field and the current sports facility, I'm very curious to see how that plays out. I don't know, but obviously. It'll be interesting to see what the new owners, the new developers decide to do with it, because there's still some nice facilities. I mean, they're old, right? They're starting to fall apart. Like there need to be some money that needs to be put into it. But I am interested to see how that's all going to play out. But I'm not in on those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I got some creative juices that always flow, and the football field, there's a lot of history and stuff behind a lot of those things too. Like the football, it's a great park opportunity. I don't know if they're watching or not, but if they needed someone to talk about, brew some ideas, I'd be happy to talk for sure. But cool. Last question I have, and I don't know if you can talk about this or if any of this has been determined yet, but can you reveal anything in terms of potentially some naming rights or memorial type things and for the facilities?
That's kind of the next piece that we're kind of talking about. How can we ensure that some of those, we want to ensure that taxpayers of Monroe are getting what they want, right? Mm-hmm. And so we also know that there's some neat opportunities to kind of add additional great, facility features to the new school. And so in order for that to happen, then the naming rights piece is what's going to be happening. So again, I'm down the road. Let's meet again. And I'd love to be able to let you know more what that looks like. Cause it's crunch time for that. But that is definitely, what's coming up real soon.
Yeah, cool. We'll definitely have to meet up with that. There's a lot of cool things. I know it's a whole process, and it's cool to be able to kind of get your perspective at this point and then be able to potentially look at that down the road. I think there's enough talking about that. Let's talk about something that a lot of Wisconsinites and specifically Monroe people care about, and that's cheese. Daily Draft today. Jubeck joining us as our guest. We're going to talk about the best types of cheese. And Elson Gratz, Jubeck, one thing we like to do is we like to pick on Elson through this segment because he really sucks at this with whatever reason, but he sucks. And he got on the board because he tied for second. So Jubeck, you have 2 points. You're representing our guests currently. So what will happen is just a little bit of a refresher. We will do a 3-round snake draft of the best types of cheese. As courtesy, we always like to allow our guests to pick where they want to go, 1, 2, or 3. Where's your move, Jubeck?
So you're saying if I get 3, I get 3 and 4?
Yes.
I mean, I'll let you guys have two just marginal picks. I don't have any faith that you guys know anything about cheese, so I'll let you guys go first. Get your just really basic with your just young people palate of not understanding the finer things in life. Go ahead and just select just cheeses that your average person from New Mexico likes.
Okay. All right. So Jubeck's gonna go with slot 3. Elson, do you have a coin? Did you bring one of those to the public library? Do they have something? Can you flip a book or something?
Flip a book. That's awesome. I was just fishing my wallet out of my pocket. So unfortunately, this isn't going to be an authentic spare change found on the ground type of coin, but I got a quarter. You want heads or tails?
I'm gonna go with heads.
All right, flipping it now. Oh, and by the way, Jubeck, you're aware you're talking to a former Cheese Days Prince, right? Well, I'm the most qualified person here. This is going to be an easy triple for me.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, just let the numbers on the screen talk about that, Elson. You have a historic struggle in this segment. I mean, before we reset the point system, I'm just going to make that clear. But hey, we'll give you the upper hand. If there are betting odds, I think that'd be in favor of you for sure.
Minus 500. By the way, the coin flip was tails. I don't remember what you called. Did you have heads or tails?
I called heads, so you make the pick.
I'll take first overall.
Okay, I'll be stuck with second. Elson, what are you going to take?
Easy, sharp cheddar. Unrefined palate? I don't think so.
Okay. One thing that Elson and I were talking before, are we going to go with the specific types? Like, are we going to say Elson gets every cheddar, or are we going to go specific?
I think specific, personally.
Okay. I think that's fair, too. I say we go specific. I think that's fair. I think that, there's it helps with the selection. I think I'm going to go, and this could be maybe what Jubeck's talking about with a young person palate, but I'll go with Munster. I think in the form of cheese curd or regular cheese, I think it's pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, well, it's funny because my 12-year-old daughter, when I told her I was doing this, that you know what she wanted me to say?
What's that? Munster?
Munster.
Brilliant. She's a smart girl.
Yeah, well, and sharp cheddar, it's fine. But I've got some friends that kind of live around the country. When they come and visit, sharp cheddar is what they want. So Elson, I'll give you a little bit of credit for that. I'll give you. I respect that. I get 2
back to back.
Yep.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with a Monroe specialty, and that would be your Grand Cru. That's I think that was it. The Emmy Roth makes one that would see. I mean, I don't think it's even debatable that it's been, judged upon world competitions as being a top cheese that exists. It's kind of has an old traditional method in which you make it, and it's more of mellow flavor. In fact, Ethan would probably appreciate because it's a mellow cheese. It's easy to eat, but it's got a little bit of uniqueness, in how it's done with the kind of the forced use of a copper kettle. So. Okay. I'm going to go Grand Cru. Oh boy. I learned, so I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Monroe actually hosts, Elson would know this, but Monroe actually hosts Madison has a world cheese competition every year. And then somehow over the years, Monroe has been able to get their hands on the leftovers. It used to be held at it's now what's it Old Smokies, which is now called whatever the bar Old Smokies is, was held there. Now it's at the mansion, and they take all these cheeses, and it's a fundraiser. And for $40 you get a steak, there's a keg of spotted cow, and then they'll put hundreds of the best cheese in the world.
I've attended this event.
What's that?
I have been there once. I have went to that event one time, and I recall now what you were talking about with this huge selection of cheese.
Incredible.
Tried all the Munster.
Yep. And from that event, I have a new appreciation for blue cheese. So the whole spectrum of blue cheese would be my second choice.
I got to say, I cannot do blue cheese. I can't do blue cheese. I heard the little subtle jab there, Elson, and I appreciate it. But that was a place I did try a couple different cheeses. Good stuff for sure. But blue cheese, I personally cannot do. So I got Munster. I would say my cheddar's off the board. I'm gonna go with the cheese here that this might be classic definition of young person palate or average person palate. But it's one of the most useful and productive types of cheese. You got pizza, you got Baby Bell, you got everything. I'm gonna go with the mozzarella.
I thought you were going to go like American or Velveeta, so I thought it was going to be even worse.
All right.
That's fine. I think that's an all right pick. Am I up?
Yes, you got two here.
And I have back to back, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go with the Ethan sort of pick here, more of a mellow type of cheese. And I'm going to take brie. And the only reason I choose that is because I eat it the same way that I eat an orange, which is you just pick it up and take a bite out of it. No peeling or chopping required. And for my second, I'm going to go aged Swiss. It is something, it's not necessarily a Wisconsin specialty, but it is very Wisconsin centric. And you just can't get that same type of flavor anywhere else, at least not that I've had. I think it's also very unique because it's not necessarily mellow, but it doesn't have the brightness of a cheddar. I love some aged Swiss.
There you go. I think I'm outmatched in terms of cheese knowledge in this one. I think it's a fair assumption that the average person demographic would apply to me. I mean, I got two legendary cheesemakers, cheese connoisseurs, a little bit of cheese everything around here. I'm gonna have to go. I might have to see the voters might appreciate my list, while it's probably because there are many other average Americans. But I think do I stick with the casual or do I go something? I'm gonna go.
You got something to prove here.
Do I go a little extravagant? I don't know.
Yes, go. Come on, bring it.
Okay, I'm gonna go with one. This was it's not even a very good joke at all, but I heard of this cheese. I can't say I really have ever tried it. I might have tried it actually at the events at the mansion that you mentioned, but this is a joke when they say, you're taking a picture and they say cheese, and I heard someone yell out Gorgonzola, and I'm gonna go with that cheese.
Gorgonzola.
Is that laughable?
I didn't see that one coming.
Okay.
I had no idea where you were going, not gonna lie.
I that could have just lost it to me, but we got to spice it up a little bit. There you go. I'm going Gorgonzola.
Yeah, the guy who says Gorgonzola better not get 4 points, right? He doesn't get 4 points for. So this is one. So my on my mom's side of the family, they're all from the Monroe area. Actually, they're more from Wyota, but from the area. And so when my grandpa would always come down to visit, he'd always want to go to Bumgardner's and have this type of sandwich. And when I was younger, I was like, what's wrong with you, Grandpa? And then once I've become a little bit older and your palates change, you guys will get there, I promise. I remember having my first one and being like, okay, I can get past this, because in the same way that I really enjoy a good sharp cheddar, and you're actually right that aged Swiss has got a very unique flavor to it. And then now anytime I go after a sporting event where we'll go and let's say there's an away track meet and it's a big one, and afterwards we all meet down at Bumgardner's and I'll have myself a Huber Bach, because nothing says Monroe, Wisconsin like Huber Bach and Limburger. For people that haven't had it, the reason, or they're saying it's gross, once you have it three times, buy your third Limburger and raw onion sandwich. I promise you, you will like it. The only people that don't like Limburger haven't tried it 3 times.
I got to hit up Baumgartner's. For you said it was a Limburger and raw onion.
That would be a rye with those two,
Okay.
and then Limburger or Baumgartner's got a couple really good mustards, and those are meant to be eaten with your with your very young brick and a hard salami. What is the point of those mustards? But you eat Limburger on the rye bread, raw onion, and just a nice thick slab of Limburger. It's a cultural event, right? I don't care where you go, wherever you go, you go to Philadelphia, you get yourself your Philly your cheesesteak sandwich, right? You go to, I don't care where you go, you have what's local to you. Monroe is Limburger cheese. What was it? The Chalet just on County Ann, north of town is where they make it.
That sounds like heaven. I love mustard. One of my favorite snacks is carrots with horseradish, and I love raw onion. Sounds fantastic.
Get on that, Elson. If you're calling yourself a cheese days prince from back in the day, you want to be a cheese days king. You have to appreciate Limburger and raw onion.
Elson, is that in the cards for you in the future to get to the king status?
Oh, maybe tomorrow.
Tomorrow? There you go. All right, just to review some lists here. My list was Munster, mozzarella, and gorgonzola. Elson went with the classic sharp cheddar, brie, and aged Swiss. And Jubeck went with the Grand Cru, blue cheese, and Limburger. So there you go. That list will be up on tonight on social media. Make sure you go vote. It is all via our viewership voting, and so we'll see. We'll see who gets the job done. I'm hoping my casual list wins. I think some of the cheese knowledge that was released today was a little over my head potentially, but it was a lot of really good stuff and good knowledge, and I learned a lot. And hopefully the Gorgonzola pick is respectable. Oh boy. All right, Jubeck. Hey, I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate your time. We'll get that one set up and hope to be able to continue to learn more about as your job continues to develop, and then also the new school. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. And then, like I said, have me down the road when I can tell you some more specifics for some of those topics that I just don't have enough information about, but I'd love to kind of fill you guys in on.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Best of luck with the rest of the school year, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Thanks.
Wow. What a legendary man that is. Austin, you talked about, we're talking, might be a top 3 episode here. And,
top one.
And you mentioned the top one. I think after that, we just spent 50 minutes talking about some high level stuff, cheese, sports, new buildings, construction. I mean, you name it. I mean, that's got to be top. I mean, we've had some pretty legendary people on the podcast so far to talk, but that one might have topped. We've never talked 50 minutes about some really cool
stuff. The
dude
was willing to hang out with us for 50 minutes. I can't believe that.
I know, on a Wednesday night. I mean, wow. We appreciate his time. We got a lot of other things to get to in terms of our local high school basketball rankings. We'll get to previewing some of this upcoming sports week's events. We got a lot of games to get to, and then we'll get into a little bit of a break and talk some national sports on the other side. But also, congrats. We got a lot of little bit of like a popularity with some of our rankings over the past week. But here we go. We got our updated area high school basketball rankings here for you. A big change. Number 1. We got new number 1 on the girls' side after the big 1 versus 2 matchup. Albany Monticello, Peck Argyle, and Albany Monticello did get the win over Peck Argyle. So they overtake the number 1 spot. Belleville and Blackhawk, they remain in some of the same areas. And the list kind of stays steady from there. Monroe, they got a little bit of a jump. They're up pretty high. I think they're a top 5. Fell kind of over the holiday season, and now they're back up into the top 5. They got a big win against New Glarus that I was lucky enough to be a part of. First ever sporting event I have engaged with in a New Glarus facility. I've never been to a New Glarus sporting event, but decided to make the trip on Monday night. It was an interesting game. The referees became kind of the spotlight of that one. And it was a typical basketball game. Last minute took about 45 minutes, and that was that. But Elson, congrats. How do we feel about the standings?
I think they look excellent. Great to see the Cheesemakers stop their slide. I'm super disappointed in Blackhawk. I fully expected them to get the first win of the year. This is embarrassing.
Yeah, I had Blackhawk as an opportunity to get their first win as well, but I suppose it wasn't in the cards. We'll see. I think there's potential that we might not, I personally at least might not vote for them until they get at least 1 win, but they might not get to vote the rest of the year. But let's get into a couple games coming up this week. Like I mentioned, we got 3 games in our sports week coming up with girls basketball, and then boys basketball. I have a whopping 6 games. So a lot of good stuff that we can begin to talk about with them. Let's get to the first one. This one coming up on Friday night, number 6 Broadhead taking on number 9 Monroe. Elson, congrats. We got a pick here. Before you make the pick, let's make sure these are lighthearted. We are casual basketball people, and we like to think what we know what we're doing. Elson Gratz received a little bit of flack via social media over the week with picking Peck Argyle over Albany Monticello. I'm happy I did make that pick correct, but these are lighthearted. Let's keep that in mind, and also make your picks.
I'm a Ripper Brands anti-hero. So Monroe's sitting at what, 3-11, right?
Well, this is girls basketball, so yes, I do believe they are. We'll see. If I can get this out of the way, Monroe 3-11 currently, and we got Broadhead up at 6-5. So there you go.
This is a very strong turnaround season. I think they keep it rolling. Monroe gets the dub.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Broadhead. I think Broadhead gets the job done. Monroe's one of those teams right now. I can't pick them until they prove it to me. It's one of those situations. I'm gonna go with Broadhead. I'll take the higher seed, and I like to stay 50-50. It does good for me with social media. Let's go to a game on Monday. We got a pair of games Monday night. Number 10, Judah taking on the best team in the area, Albany Monticello. It's the best versus the worst. Do we remain in the same kind of conundrum with this?
One word to describe Albany Monticello: juggernaut. I've never watched them play, but the Ripper Brands rankings don't lie. They're number one, and they're staying there.
Amen, brother. I'm going with you. Albany Monticello. If Judah wins, if Judah gets the job done in this game, I will personally go jump in a freezing cold river and remain in there for approximately 10 seconds. I will do that 100%, and we'll make sure that's on video for the people.
I'll jump in the Arkansas as well.
Okay, good. We'll get a video from Tulsa. I'll jump in. I'll go to Lake Michigan. I think that's a little bit more reputable one up in Milwaukee, but I'll get up in the Milwaukee, Lake Michigan, approximately 10 seconds, and we'll get one of us in the Arkansas River, correct?
Correct.
All right, there you go. That's a little bit of knowledge there. Last game on that Monday is we got Blackhawk in Peck Argyle, big time game, 2v4. Blackhawk, a reputable, high performing girls basketball program historically, but a Peck Argyle team. They got a loss against Albany Monticello, looking to bounce back. How does the rest of the season go? Big time game to kind of write that narrative. What do we think in this?
The tough losses show whether you are truly a real fan of the team you're rooting for. I'm going to stand by Peck Argyle here. I think they rebound in a big way.
Yeah, I think Blackhawk might have this is going to be a closer game than even I expect, I think, but I'll go Peck Argyle for the heck of it with you. If Blackhawk wins, I will not be jumping in Lake Michigan. That is too close of a game. I'm not that confident, but I'll go Peck Argyle with you. I think a 2v4 matchup. That's one of the fun ones this week. Thursday, a couple games on Thursday in the boys basketball side. Albany Monticello. This is a battle of the co-op. I mean, the best girls basketball team comprised of players from Albany and Monticello. Now their boys from those schools are competing against each other. It's a 6, it's an 8 seed game. What do we think in this one?
I think the fact that it's a battle of the co-ops, that's a very real factor. It's brother versus brother. And I think that benefits the underdog. So I'm going to go with Monticello.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. This, I think, potentially has got, it's a rivalry game. I don't know. It's not an I-69 rivalry. I don't know if we got maybe we call it the co-op rivalry. We'll see. I'm going to go Monticello. Yeah, we can for sure. I'm going to go Monticello in this one. I think they get the job done. Let's get to another Thursday game. We got number 11, Judah, taking on number 2, Albany. Austin Gratz, what do we think?
I'm not convinced that Judah has ever won a game in any sport, so I'm going to go with Argyle.
Yeah, I think this is a clear-cut pick for me. I think Argyle gets the job done. We'll double or nothing. I'll go in 20 seconds in Lake Michigan if this game happens, and we'll do 20 seconds in Argyle. If we end up in the hospital and next week's episode does not happen, you'll know why. If you see that,
we're that committed.
Bill. Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, Pecatonica taking on number 6, Albany.
Pecatonica is undeniably the cool name, but Albany is also a University of Higher Education. Let's go with Pecatonica.
Yeah, I'll go the opposite way from you. I'll go Albany here. I think they're better in every aspect according to the alphabet. They're number 1 in every, Albany on top of everything. So I'll go with them. Pecatonica, more of a mid-pack team, and I think I like the 6/4 kind of game here. I'll take Albany in this one. Monroe game. Monroe taking on Evansville, 5v10. I believe this game is in home turf or home court, if you would, for the Cheesemakers. Where are we going?
So I'm in Monroe, and I'm in the Monroe Public Library study room, and I can see that citizens of Monroe are massing outside the door and staring at me and looking very angry. So I'm going to try and win them over. We're going to pick Monroe.
Oh, boy. Elson Gratz. If he doesn't make it through the episode, someone send a call out for him at the public library. If you're, casually bored driving around Monroe, go to the public library, tap on Alston's window, and get on the podcast. We'll happily interview you. Maybe we'll talk another 50 minutes like we did with Jubeck. We'll be interested to hear your cheese preferences. What game we're doing? Evansville, Monticello. I'll take Monroe. Not Monticello. Evansville, Monroe. I'll take Monroe. I like Monroe. Monroe boys side, I think, is a team that I can pick confidently, and I'll take them to get the job done. We got next game, Pecatonica and Monticello, a 4v8. Elson Gratz, what do you like?
So I'm a math guy, and when I do some basic addition here, Pecatonica is 5 syllables, Monticello is 4. 5 is greater than 4. Pecatonica again.
There you go. I picked Monticello up earlier as they took on Albany, and obviously the biggest rivalry in the area. And I'm gonna stick with my guns. I think Albany gets 2 upset wins over the 4 and the 6 seeds this week. I think we see them jump up there. I mean, Monticello, Albany too, but Monticello for sure is a basketball school. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're dominant on both boys and the girls side. I'll take them there. And then last game of our sports weekend, another Tuesday game. I believe there's 3 games on Tuesday. But we got Albany taking on Blackhawk. Blackhawk, is this the time you get your first win?
No, Albany, easy.
Yeah, I think enough said. I think no is enough that you all got to say in that question. I think I'm going to go. I'm going to pick the Albany. What are they? Comments? No.
I think they're like the Rams or something.
No, they're not the Rams. Get a fact check on this. I think they're the Comets.
Let me check on this. They are the Great Danes. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. The Albany Great Danes.
The Great Danes? There's no way that's right. Is that Albany, Wisconsin?
Look it up.
All right. Well, we're going to.
No, that's Albany, New York.
Okay. Well, let's get to a break. On the other side. A little bit more knowledgeable in those realms. Ethan Rose, Elson Gratz, you on the other side. Just want to remind you about the best sunflower seeds in the business. Baseball and softball season is right around the corner, and we want to make sure you are well prepared. Scan the QR code on your screen and check out Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. Get yourself some of the best seeds in the business. Do it now so you don't forget. Are you a fan of Grant Horvat or Ben Kruger? If so, you are in luck. Scan the QR code or head over to primalgolfapparel.com and use code RIPPER for 15% off your next order. Make sure you check them out and get yourself some of their high-quality golf apparel now.
The following podcast features half-biased and controversial sports takes. All predictions are simply predictions, and we truly don't know what will happen. We will try our best to keep you entertained, but no guarantees. We appreciate you taking time out of our day to listen to our show. Much love, Ripper Brands.
Whew. All right. This is a little bit of a hot lap to get our charger for the computer, but we're back. A little out of breath. You can tell I'm a little washed up in everything that I do. Hit the stairs like no one else's business. Ethan Rose, still Elson Gratz, coming to you from the public library of Monroe, Wisconsin. Any hecklers, any threats and warnings of potentially getting kicked out?
No, they all backed off after I picked Monroe. Thank God.
Whew. Good. He did mention that
they're just true fans.
Yeah, I mean that was a passionate pick. They saw what happened with Peck Argyle and Albany Monticello, and we did not want that to happen for the Cheesemakers. Wow, I am out of breath. That was killer. I mean, that's about 50 seconds to 50 to 60 second clip right there, and upstairs unplugged in a crowded cord situation. That is a crowded cord situation. Down here, grab that, plug it in across a couple bar stools, jump over the cord back here. Just in time to get the intro music coming back. I mean, that was...
I just got a notification on my watch. It says that you broke the 40-yard dash record, 397.
Okay. I mean, we don't got to be fake about this now. And we provide actual and factual information. Elson Gratz, and I know that is false. But hey, I appreciate
They'll probably revise it to like a 4.01.
Yeah, well, that'll get changed up a little bit, no doubt about it. All right, second half of the podcast is we're an hour in, which is crazy. A 50-minute conversation with Jubeck. That was one of one right there. I mean, if that's top tier, there's no one else up there. Maybe next week's guest, that is TBD. Maybe they will be able to top that. Getting that tier with Jubeck there. But let's talk PGA Tour to start, and then we'll get into a little bit of football. Sony Open, the Hawaii opening drive that is concluded. Sony Open, job done. Nick Taylor, the Canadian, gets the win in a playoff against a crazy last name. I mean, the way the announcers were announcing his last name throughout Sunday, I was like, I don't even know if that is. I don't even know if I agree with that. But there you go. Super competitive Sunday. I mean, we talked about the Century a week ago and how that was outrageous scoring. I mean, 35 under won it for Hideki Matsuyama, a PGA scoring record. And now we saw a little bit more of a competitive, kind of went into it not really knowing who was going to win. A very competitive Sunday. Obviously, going to a playoff is kind of a big time thing too. I'm fired up for the rest of the season. A good opening stretch, a couple good players, Hideki and Nick Taylor, a couple of really good players that are able to are kicked off with a couple wins, getting onto the American Express. We'll get to my fantasy golf there in a little bit, into the California Sling. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm not sure where those courses, excuse me, I think American Express is at PGA West. I know next week's Farmers Insurance Open is at Torrey Pines, which is a San Diego area, but it's California courses, so I'm not sure if I'm assuming the wildfires have not affected those courses. I'm sure we would have heard by now, but there you go. But fired up for the rest of the season. Let's get to my fantasy golf for the American Express, Elson. I mean, not bad. Not bad last week. Didn't perform quite as a high level. We were in the 500s for points 2 weeks ago. Last week we're at 412. But if you can tell by that little rank up there, we've improved by 7,000 spots. So clap it up for that. I mean, that's a job well done right there if I've ever seen. We're up to 947. We're still trying to break the top 10,000. I think that's in the cards for this week, especially after consuming this lineup right here. Wyndham Clark, I think, has poised for a good year this year. Nick Dunlap, defending champion. I think that he owns this course. I mean, one is an amateur. That's rare as can be. I'm going to bet on him to get the job done defending the title. Justin Thomas, this is just kind of got his name written all over this course. And Tony Finau, a guy coming off of injury over the offseason, he's going to be looking good. On the bench, Ricky Fowler going to make his first start, I do believe, of the new year, and I'm excited to see what he can look like. And then a name here, Michael Thorbjornsen. Is that the best pronunciation that you could provide, Elson?
I think that's totally correct, Michael Thorbjornsen.
Yeah, I think there could be some sort of accent that provides. I mean, the way the announcers were Acha Maria or something or like that, but there's a V, not an M, and I didn't agree with how they're pronouncing it, but it could be true. But they could have something that they know that I don't. But 176 in the world, and that is crazy. I mean, impressive that he's that high, but also crazy in terms of golf. He's I think full-time is a full rookie. He was amateur last year. He's going to have a good year. So I really like this list. Only one guy in the official, honestly, top 20 of the official world golf rankings. I think this is an opportunity. We crack the top 10,000. And as long as we're going in the right direction throughout the entire season, Elson Gratz, I think we'll be in good shape. How do we feel? I know limited golf knowledge for you, but how do we feel about those rankings?
I think it's sweet that you're bringing golf content to the masses. However, I am a little concerned for the longevity of the segment because based on your ranking, it seems like about 7,000 people already quit.
Okay, so we got to do a little bit of research here. We talked about the whole 40-yard dash thing, how that is false information. We got to talk a little bit now about this, all right? Where I'm at is not last, all right? I'm in almost the top 10,000 people. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, I bet you if you looked at everybody on that list, I have to be in the top 1% of growth from week 1 to week 2. I have 7,000 spots. I mean, that's got to be top 1%. Top 1%. The guys up in the top 10, they were not jumping that high. They did not grow as much as I did. Learned a lot. I did get an email from Fantasy Golf that they improved some of the interface. I definitely saw the benefits of that. Made my picks a lot quicker, and I think we'll see the results on the field. I think that this fantasy team's got potential, and I think we'll be ended up in the top 1% of everything. We'll be just continuing to grow day in and day out. College football, some no graphic today, but a little bit of draft risers and fallers. Take it away.
So I want to talk about two players, and I'm kind of going to package them together. They are JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, two edge rushers from Ohio State. And these are two guys that had big expectations coming into the season. Actually, very similar type of players, traditional hand-in-the-dirt defensive ends, play to run, power rushers, 5 technique type of players who know how to set the edge. Guys that were mocked in the first or second round, like I said, big expectations. And then they kind of fell off the face of the earth. It felt like everybody got sick of talking about them. They're not the flashiest type of rusher. Some guys like the Quay Robinsons and LT Overtons, two great examples from Alabama, the stand-up edge rushers who are fast and athletic and bendy. Those are the guys that came to the forefront that everybody wanted to talk about. And then in the college football playoffs, your physical defensive end types, Tuimoloau and Sawyer, prove that they are here to stay. They are both fourth-year seniors, both 6'5", Tuimoloau 269, Sawyer 260. And they prove that in the big moments, these are the type of guys that show up. Tuimoloau had 1.5 sacks in a TFL in Ohio State's playoff victory. Sawyer had a sack, 3 quarterback hits, and we saw what he did to Quinn Ewers, had the scoop and score. They made big plays in big moments. Their names are right back up on draft boards, and these are players that in a really good defensive line class with a premium on defensive tackles and defensive ends, I still think we're going to see them go really high. I would say end of round 1 to early round 2. They're going to make some team, and especially some general manager, because I think it is the day-to-day operations guys that really feel the impact of a player you can always count on. They're going to make some teams very happy.
Okay. Hypothetically, with the JT stud and the Sawyer guy, what happens after the national championship when they just look horrible against my Notre Dame Fighting Irish? How does their draft stock be implied there?
I would say that after they're done dominating Notre Dame's mediocre offensive line, maybe they shoot into kind of firmly the first round into that 20 to 25 sort of range.
So, okay, let's dive into this one. National championship preview. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the horrible University of Ohio State. I know it's Ohio State. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Let's preview this one. You got a couple stars in your risers for Ohio State. I'm a little disappointed that we haven't seen guys like Riley Leonard, Jack Kaiser, you name it, moving up. Xavier Watts is a dog. Benjamin Morrison's an injured player this year, but potential first-round talent there. What do we think here in this game? A lot of draft prospects. We're going to see Marcus Freeman, first African-American head coach to make it to the national championship game, let alone potentially win it. I'm going to say that he's going to win it. A lot of confidence coming into this game. This is a team that lost to a 500 Michigan team. Don't forget that. They got hot at the right time. Don't get me wrong, but they went out and they decreased that quarterback while still paying $20 million for their roster. I know Kirk Herbstreit doesn't like hearing that because Desmond Howard was letting them have it on College Game Day in the past week. But this Ohio State team, in my opinion, is a little overrated. I'm not concerned. I've never been an Ohio State fan, as I would imagine you have not either, being from Wisconsin. But if you do, I don't respect you. And I think – I'm kidding, by the way. I just think that this is a team – I think Kyle McCord was a better quarterback than Will Howard. I think both of them are below the Ohio State standard in college. Now, when they get to the NFL, obviously they're just not good at all. But then – this is a team that spent $20,000. They're a veteran defense. Caleb Downs comes into the squad, lights it up, adds to that defense, adds to the experience on that team, and is a playmaker for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think this is an offense that's got a two-headed monster. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith is someone who to worry about alone. When you think about Ohio State, you think about Jeremiah Smith, and it's concerning. Is this going to be the best team we play all year? I don't think so. I think Penn State was the best remaining team. I really liked Texas. I think that they kind of ran into a tough situation with Quinn, the injury. And I think there's a little bit of controversy. Just, the whole arch, it's just too much going on, too much buzz. They weren't able to stay centered. But I think this is a good opportunity for Notre Dame. And like I said, I'm not too overly scared about Ohio State.
There's so much to unpack here. First of all, I hate Ohio State, not just as a Wisconsin fan, but as a fan of good college football. However, I also hate Notre Dame, and I hope they lose. So it kind of amounts to a push for me. Second, you mentioned Riley Leonard, like how he should be a riser. He actually legitimately is for me. I think I had him somewhere around QB 12 on my summer board. He's moved up into the QB 5 to 7 range. He's actually someone who really has piqued my interest. Good arm, very mobile. Third, so much to talk about with this game. Really fun championship game, even though I do hate both teams. Oh yeah, throwing stones in glass houses much with the whole loss to Michigan thing. Like, do we have to go there?
Absolutely.
The University of Illinois, as you were telling me early on, you can't even remember who they were. That's how bad that game was.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to talk about that too, that's week 2 of the college football season. I mean, this is an early team. This is a brand new quarterback in a brand new system, offensive coordinator. Watching Notre Dame, this is a team that got better each and every week, but I understand we got the loss, and I would say a loss to Michigan is probably a little bit better than Northern Illinois. There's still a 2-loss team. I really, really despise the fact that Notre Dame was in that second tier to the entire season. If you watch that team, once there was a massive difference between before they knew how to play with Riley Leonard to after. Once they started letting Riley Leonard run the football effectively and design him to run the ball, especially in the red zone, this is a totally different team because he still does have arm talent that a lot of people are still overlooking. But Riley Leonard, when he got going and playing his own football, you could tell. Early on, he looked timid. He didn't look like he was comfortable in the system. And I've heard things that they just needed to figure out. They needed time to be able to figure out how Riley Leonard fit into their system. They thought when he came in, he was a different quarterback than how he turned out, even though, you still knew he was mobile, still knew he could run. But at the same time, he thought that the pocket passing was a little bit maybe stronger or more prevalent in his gameplay. It's still good, but he's able to really run, and that's his strength. That's something you got to stop. And when you have a quarterback like that in the red zone, that's lights out. I think he set a program record for most rushing touchdowns by quarterback. I could be wrong on that. Maybe it's something in that regard, but he's been dominant. You add Jeremiah Love to that running equation. He's one of the. He's got to be a top 5 back in the country. And then Jadarian Price. He's a starter in any normal program, but then he's behind Love, and he's really stepped up well. And there's a lot of really good receivers. Mitchell Evans, one of the top tight ends in the country. Obviously, a historic offensive line. A good program. All in all, Notre Dame, we got the best head coach in the country. A lot of people were calling for him. A lot of people were calling for him to be gone after last year. I said, wait one more year. We got to let his recruitment, because he recruited a heck of a lot better than Brian Kelly. The best thing that ever happened to Notre Dame was Brian Kelly going to LSU. 110%. That guy, no one likes him. I don't even think people in Baton Rouge like him. But I know I'm saying a lot. I'm just kind of rambling right now. But like I mentioned earlier, no concern against Ohio State. All the confidence in the world for Notre Dame. Is it going to come back to bite me? I really hope not. I don't think so, but anything's possible.
I do like that you touch on how they've activated Riley Leonard's legs, and I think that's going to play a huge role in that game, because if they can't get the ground game going with him, and if they can't control time of possession, I don't really trust Leonard dropping back under pressure. I don't trust him to have exceptional pocket presence. I don't trust him to make the right reads over and over again. I think it's something he can do in a limited sample size, but if he has to throw 35 times against a really good defensive line in a secondary that's also been very solid, that has playmakers, I do have concerns there. So can they get into their offensive script? And then on the other end, you talked about how Penn State might have been the best remaining team. And I think if you're looking at the completeness of the team, I kind of understand that. However, Drew Aller is a really enigmatic quarterback because he's a great runner. He doesn't usually make bad decisions, although he did in that game. There's just something that's a little off about him, where when I watch him, I don't quite see a quarterback that plays like a pro. He plays like a college quarterback who can make the right reads with the right system around him, that wants to get the ball out hot, that wants to use his athleticism to win. And that's just not quite what Will Howard is. I don't think Will Howard is like an NFL starter or anything, but the way that he drops back to pass, he just kind of has a different degree of touch and placement on the football. So my big question is, Does he make unforced errors? Because there have been some of those on the season. Or does he get impacted by pressure? Because if he's kept clean, I do think that he could pick Notre Dame apart. You mentioned how Benjamin Morrison is hurt. That's been a big loss. They felt that at times. If Ohio State can be multifaceted, they can run the ball, they can keep Will Howard clean and get the passing attack going. I think that could be curtains. That's why I ultimately have OSU 24-17. But I think this one's really well matched up.
I think 20 total points there is 41 if my math is correct. I think that's right. That's in the correct vicinity. I think this is going to be in that low 20s, high teens kind of game. I mean, it's going to be a battle. Ohio State wants to play in a shootout. Their offense is high powered, but they have a veteran defense, and that's what it's going to end up coming down to. One thing I never mentioned about this entire thing is Notre Dame's defense. I mean, it's a complete unit. I can't think of a team in the country that's got a better defense than Notre Dame. You factor that in with the special teams that has come up huge in some of these playoff games as well, that has, changed narratives and provided momentum. Like, special teams has played a big part. It's a big emphasis. It's why the program and culture of this team is so prevalent. I got Notre Dame. I'm going to go with a whopping score of 27-17. I think they get the job done by 2 scores. I think that this is I don't think that they play us closer than Penn State. I think Penn State's going to play the toughest matchup. I think that we got to get healthy. Jeremiah Love looks like he's going to be 100% coming into this game, better than what he was. And he came down, and it got to the point where Jeremiah Love was like, okay, I got to start playing. And at that point, you could tell the momentum switched to Notre Dame's sideline and turned into be a much better situation, and Notre Dame came out with the job done. So we're split there. We'll have to recap next week if we don't die of frostbite and hypothermia in our respective rivers and lakes. But I'm super excited. This is the first time for me as a sports fan that my team has been a part of a championship team or a championship game in any sport. So I'm super excited to be able to be a part of that and have that experience.
You ready to jump into some NFL?
Yeah, let's breeze through some NFL here. We're going to recap some wild card games and get into a little bit, maybe some predictions for the divisional. Let's start with the Chargers-Texans game. Texans win 32-12. Justin Herbert, 4 picks. And they just couldn't quite get the job done. Texans move on.
This one took me by surprise a little bit. And I didn't think it was gonna, because when I was watching the first quarter, when I was watching, really most of the first half, it felt like I was going to be dead on about this game. The Chargers were running the ball. They're controlling time of possession. They're getting pressure. The Texans offense couldn't get anything going. And then there was a bad snap. CJ Stroud picks it up, rolls to his right, fires to an open receiver over the middle of the field, and the entire rhythm of the game changed. It was nothing Texans from there on out. However, it was nice to see the Texans rebound. But one thing that kind of stuck out to me is, man, I kind of just can't trust Justin Herbert in big moments. It always feels like he leaves a little bit on the table when you got to have it. Like some quarterbacks, I think of the Josh Allens of the world against, the Patriots, the Raiders, the not great teams. They play within themselves. They take the easy throws. They don't turn the ball over and give the other team easy chances. And then when you got to have it against the Rams or the Bengals or the Lions, then it's lights out. Then they're throwing haymakers. They're splitting the safeties, hitting deep shots, and those are your 5 touchdown type of performances. With Herbert, it's kind of the opposite. Against the really bad teams, has 5 touchdowns, some really awesome throws. Against the good teams, it feels like the Chargers don't trust him all the way, and he kind of proved that right. Herbert was bad in this game. I'm just going to say that. Those were 4 very real interceptions, and I remember early on, because the Chargers were running the show. They were moving the ball pretty well, and they're struggling to convert in the red zone. He had Ladd McConkey on a post route, and he just sailed it. And that's when the Chargers were ahead. But alarm bells kind of started going off in the back of my head, like, oh, if this is going to be a Justin Herbert shrinks game, the Texans are going to have a chance. Justin Herbert shrank. The Texans showed that they have excellent talent all over. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter had fantastic games. Joe Alt looked like a rookie. The team that has more superstars wound up moving on here. And with the Chargers, maybe this isn't the end of charging. We'll see. We'll see if Jim Harbaugh keeps the momentum going into next season.
A lot of reverse narratives in this game. For the Texans, defense and CJ Stroud have been kind of the 2 maybe weak points. CJ Stroud seems like he's kind of going through that sophomore slump this year, and the defense has also been kind of weak for them. Both of those stepped up and played really, really well in this game for the Texans. On the Chargers side, a team that we kind of thought, we picked them in our bracket, which I got to say is not looking very good after round one. But a Chargers team that came into this, the whole Jim Harbaugh effect, a good squad. Looks like I thought they had the best opportunity to win this game. And in turn, Justin Herbert struggles. This is kind of one of his. I feel like, he's been in the playoffs before, but I don't think this is probably the highest maybe expectations or the most potential coming into the playoffs that he's had in his career. The best opportunity, I guess, maybe might be the best way to put that. But I think this is a little bit of a reverse narrative game. A lot of things that we expected to happen didn't, kind of went the other way. And as a result, Texans are move on, Chargers going home and kind of back to that drawing board. But Chargers, I think, are going to be fine. They're a team that's going to be, we'll see. I think if there's another next year of kind of the same Justin Herbert, but I think, getting into a full off season with Jim Harbaugh at the helm, I think it'll be interesting how they draft again. And I'm extremely excited to be able to see how that Charger team prevails. Steelers-Ravens. Steelers-Ravens 28-14. Ravens get the job done. Is this the most Mike Tomlin season of all?
I am proud to say I was kind of right about the Steelers the entire way. Out of all 6 wildcard games, this is the only one that I was really dead on about. I remember all the talk about this Steelers team feels different because they benched Justin Fields and put Russell Wilson in. They blew out a few bad teams. It was ultimately the same old Steelers. A little bit of a late season slide where their deficiencies on offense just got exposed. It turns out Russell Wilson, behind a not very good offensive line, throwing exclusively to George Pickens, who any given game might drop 3 or 4 passes, and Pat Freiermuth doesn't make for a particularly good offense. And as for the defense, they get after the quarterback, they stop the run, but ultimately their secondary is pretty much just Joey Porter Jr. hanging on guys' jerseys and Minka Fitzpatrick. That's not going to play. The Ravens ran all over them. They controlled the clock. That's all they had to do. This was ultimately a pretty easy win for the Ravens. They got it on their terms. And ultimately, they win the division series as well, 2-1.
Yeah, no doubt. I think this was I think you hit it right on the head. I think I got to give you credit. I was that guy that really was confident in the Steelers. I thought this was a different team. I thought we were going to see a little bit of primetime Russell Wilson, but didn't. And Ravens prevail. This is going to be – I'm excited. We'll preview it in a little bit, but that Ravens-Bills game, that's going to be – potentially kind of like a career writing type game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to watch and see how that goes. So looking forward to that one. But for the Ravens, like I said, I think they're in a good place. I think Lamar Jackson's obviously one of the best in the league right now. And Steelers, I see, we'll see what happens. There are talks about him, Mike Tomlin getting traded. I know he's got a no trade clause, I do believe, but a lot of interesting things. 2 quarterbacks going to become free agents. We'll see how they move on. Let's keep her going into a little Broncos-Bills. And the first drive of this game looked like the Broncos were going to give the Bills all the fits in the world, but Bills, obviously by the score 31-7, prevail and get the job done. Is this, we're saying that Josh Allen potentially is MVP this year, but is this a year that he also goes for Super Bowl?
I think it certainly could be. I don't really think we can say that based on this game. I don't think this one was quite as much of a blowout as it looked like. You mentioned that first drive where the Broncos looked comfortable. They were in their offensive script, but they showed some signs of life outside of that as well. They had a 55-yard field goal opportunity that they opted to punt away, which I thought was an interesting choice, and then they missed a 50-yarder before half. This game should have been really close. The Broncos maybe should have been winning if they just cleaned up some of their errors in the first half. And ultimately, the Bills with Josh Allen run away with it in the second. They just didn't finish drives very well. And with a rookie quarterback in the playoffs, you're going to see some of that. I wouldn't be terribly disappointed if I was a Broncos fan. They made it to the playoffs in year 1 of Bo Nix. And let's get a few things straight. This is just not a very talented roster overall. They don't have the star power, and they were pretty solid on both sides of the ball. They mostly beat the bad teams they played. I think that's a sign of good coaching. They just ran out of gas against a really good offense that we're going to talk about in a minute. Yeah, the Bills are pretty legit, but I think we all know that.
Yeah, this is for the Broncos. I think this was kind of the story of a veteran coach and Mike Tomlin and just an experienced roster. I think that, like you mentioned, they don't have huge star power. They're young. And I think as those players continue to develop, I'm super excited to see how Bo Nix kind of develops and turns into the quarterback that he's going to be. But continuing to add pieces around him through the free agency, through draft, and seeing how they can continue to grow. I think Sean Payton's a good coach. I think besides maybe that decision that you brought up, I think they've got pretty good opportunity to be successful with him at the helm. Should be a lot of fun. This could be potentially sad for the Packers. And I think Jordan Love is finally proving to me that he's bad and he's like a tier 4 quarterback in the NFL. But Eagles wasn't pretty. They got the job done. But how about them Green Bay Packers? How disappointing are you as a Green Bay Packer fan after that performance?
You know what? This one definitely hurt because I know that based on how the Eagles offense played, we could have been in that one. We did make too many mistakes, but ultimately, this is actually what I expected. I did pick the Eagles to win by 2 scores because when you look at the talent disparity between what a young Packers team is working with, without Christian Watson, without one of the role players that we've had come out for us down the stretch, Zane Anderson, he's been a key third safety, but then more importantly, Jair Alexander going down for the year. We weren't going to have him for the rest of the playoffs, even if we did win this game against the Philadelphia Eagles. It was always going to be an uphill battle. I mean, this is a fantastic secondary going up against Romeo Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks. Jaden Reed's good, but Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft are our 2 best pass catchers. It's tough to win with that against a really all-around solid Philly defense. And Philly's offensive line, I was actually impressed by the amount of pressure that we got on Jalen Hurts. We had him rolling out of the pocket pretty often, making life a little bit difficult on him. Barkley obviously got his, but there were certainly carries where he was bottled up. This is a really, really objectively good Eagles offense, and Packers held them to 22. There were missed opportunities. We should have been in it. Missed a key field goal that really hurt. Messed up a red zone opportunity for us. This one should have been closer than it was. We should have had the opportunity to at least take it to overtime, but I think the Packers put up a good fight. Defense is playing hard for Jeff Hafley, and as for Jordan Love, people are going to hate on him because they're only looking at the box score. They see that he throws picks. They're going to get that with Jordan Love, and it does concern me because he's such an aggressive decision maker. But sometimes you would know this firsthand watching him against the Cowboys. He can light up the scoreboard because when you're aggressive, when you're going after tight windows, that's how you win big games. It didn't happen this time in the cold, but next year, watch out. The Packers are only getting better.
Yeah, I think I don't know how I feel. I mean, you're playing against a 2 seed who's very, very talented, and most years might be a 1 seed.
Literally all 22 of their offensive and defensive starters, in my opinion, are like above average starters. I think they're the most talented.
It's a good football team. It's a good football team. This was a game consisting of my 31st and my 32nd favorite teams. This is a kind of a win-win and a lose-lose situation. One of the teams were going to get knocked out, and the other team was going to move on. As long as the Eagles lose to the Rams coming up this week, I'll be a very happy boy. But other than that, this is kind of a lose-lose situation if the Eagles go on a run now. But looking at it from kind of a broad perspective, I think you like you mentioned, you had your hands full, and I kind of enjoyed asking people the question of were you more confident going into this game or going into the game last year against the Cowboys? Going into it is the question that I asked, and I've heard mixed reviews. I'm not sure if I've asked you, Elson, but what would your answer be to that question?
Cowboys game, easily. I didn't think that the Cowboys were necessarily frauds last year, but Packers were hungry. Thought we were very much going to have a puncher's chance. In this one, I was considered we were just going to get straight up out talented, and we kind of did.
Yeah, to me, it's just I think you make the point about bringing up the idea that, people just look at the box score with Jordan Love. To me, he is a good quarterback, but he's not at that level that can provide you a fighting opportunity to win a game like this. Packers, I think, to me this year, they were a team that beat the teams they were better than, but couldn't get over the hump against the teams that they're bad or that were better than them, if that makes sense. I think the one thing that comes to mind is the Seahawks game. I think that might have been one of their more impressive wins. And this is just me kind of off the top of my head. So they could have had another win that was top notch. But to me, that Seahawks game, primetime Sunday Night Football on the road at Lumen Field, one of the toughest places to play, was one of the better, more impressive wins. Very dominant. But in terms of big games like this, into the playoffs, taking on a really, really good Eagles team, yeah, you're going to have your hands full in that. But this is a team that gets the job done against the bad teams. And, maybe the teams maybe at the same kind of caliber as them. But when it comes to those tier 1 teams, tier 2 teams even, I think that they are They're just not there. And I think that they're going to continue to develop. I think Jordan Love is kind of, like I mentioned, that middle pack. He's going to get the job done. You mentioned that he throws the interceptions, but there is a certain aspect of that's how you win these football games. And I respect that. I think that it's a little concerning. I don't know. I mean, the Packers won one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, a Mount Rushmore quarterback. So, I mean, who knows what the capability is? And I mean, Aaron Rodgers is head and shoulders better than Jordan Love, especially at this point. Who knows what the next 10 years will look like? But if they can only win one with them, what are the odds with Jordan Love? But maybe was Aaron Rodgers that issue? Was it potentially the Jordan Love aspect, bringing him in a different kind of dynamic type of offense? Who knows? But I will say Josh Jacobs is a beast. Jaden Reed came on like no one's business in that game and really stepped up and made some big catches and did what they needed to do. But it'll be interesting to see what the Packers decide to do come this offseason and see how they improve and how they build around Jordan Love and continue to try to and bolster that offense and boost his career. I think next year is going to be a big year for Jordan Love in terms of at least earning the respect of his fan base and trying to develop that respect. And so that'd be my take on that game.
I don't love that we went 1-5 in the division. You talked about how the Packers didn't always win the big games. They did have a nice high stakes win against the Texans. That also comes to mind early in the season. But against the teams that really have an upper gear, the Eagles went 0-2 against them. One of them doesn't really count because Love got hurt, but whatever. 0-2 against the Lions, 0-2 against the Vikings. I think that what the Packers need to do is they need to bolster the offensive line because the NFC North is a physical division. In the games where Josh Jacobs was able to just grab the rock and pummel it downhill, the Packers won those games. We need to be able to blow really good defensive lines straight off the football and win games on the ground. I think if you can do that, Jordan Love isn't a quarterback that takes bad sacks. Jordan Love is a great passer off of play action. I think that could be a top 3 offense in the league if you build it out the right way.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see what goes forward in the offseason. It could be very interesting in all aspects, how the other teams' decisions implicate the Packers and so on. Keeping it going here, potentially one of the better games of probably the best game of the wildcard weekend. Commanders 23, Bucks 20. This is DQ and Jaden Daniels get the job done. This is a different team. It seems like the culture that DQ has built out there in the nation's capital, I think, is elite. And I was rooting for the Bucks. I would say I think I want to see Baker Mayfield succeed, and it's just a veteran squad. But I think Todd Bowles is kind of a Jordan Love of coaches. You just can't take the next step. But what are your thoughts on this one?
First of all, I think it's hilarious that there's one NFC North team left in the playoffs, and there are 2 NFC East teams. That's all I'm going to say about that. As for how the game unfolded, we both did pick the Buccaneers to win because I think on paper they're the better roster. But yeah. I wasn't really surprised that the Commanders won this game. What about you? How surprising was it that they came out ahead?
I'd say this is as close to 50-50 as I think you can get. I mean, it was a matter of could Jaden Daniels step up in the big game, and he did. I mean, this is a young team for the most part. I mean, they do have good pieces. They talked about during the broadcast and how Austin Eckler had to be a big piece of their puzzle, and he was. I think that's a veteran running back at a key position, making big-time plays. So Terry McLaurin's a beast, and they got a good defense, front 7 for sure, and overall pretty good defense with DQ. So I think this is a 50-50 as it gets.
I totally agreed. This is a Commanders offense that can come along or that can come alive at any time. In large part because of Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, they do have some of that high-end talent against a Buccaneers team that on both sides of the ball is extremely boom or bust. And this was kind of a bust game for Tampa Bay. I also thought they kind of got screwed by the refs. There were a couple very suspect plays. Baker got dragged out of bounds by his face mask. This needs to be reviewable, by the way. The Commanders jumped into the neutral zone. The Buccaneers snapped the ball to try and get the flag, and instead no flag was thrown, and they just got blown up in the backfield. They stall out in the red zone, have to kick the field goal, and ultimately it was only a 3-point margin. This was a 50-50 game. These were 2 fun, young, well-matched teams. I think the Buccaneers are still a little bit better when you look at the roster, but it's fun to see Jaden Daniels make it to round 2 of the playoffs in his rookie season. I was, I think, wrong about Jaden Daniels. I had a top 10 grade on him. That wasn't high enough. He's been a stellar quarterback in year 1. I would already put him in tier 2 with guys like Dak Prescott. And I do think that the Commanders are a force, but I think we're going to get to this in a minute. I don't think that they're going to move on past this. I don't think they have the talent yet. They still need a lot of roster building.
Yeah, considering they got to take on the Detroit Lions, I think they're going to have their hands full moving forward. I think this offseason, where we're looking for things to talk about, I think it'd be interesting to do the tiers of quarterbacks, because it is kind of an interesting perspective when you have the top dogs, then you have the successful quarterbacks that, given the right opportunity, they can make a run, and then you have like the tier 3, who I refer to as like a Jordan Love type player, who can beat the teams that are worse but can't get the job done in the big game. And I think it'd be interesting to be able to kind of do that. So definitely keep that in mind. Let's get to a game. I wasn't able to watch this one. I was at the Monroe New Glarus boys basketball game, but a nightmare game for Sam Darnold, similar to Week 18 for him. I think it's what do we say after kind of seeing some playoff performance and experience for Sam Darnold? Is it safe to say that maybe JJ McCarthy's the guy to move forward with?
I think he's got to be. This was not some Darnold was running for his life. He was playing valiantly and passes were getting dropped. Darnold sucked in this game. He was not good enough to help the Vikings win. And we saw this in back-to-back big games, the 2 biggest games that Sam Darnold played. He shrunk. Now, to play devil's advocate a little bit, Sam Darnold's really gotten better this season than we've ever seen from him. Can he learn to be clutch, playing in some of the first big games of his career? Maybe. I'm not going to bank on that. If I'm the Vikings, that Sam Darnold figures out how to be a bright lights type of quarterback. I would rather side with the guy that you drafted to be a franchise guy. Darnold was the bridge. McCarthy was the future. I think I would rather go to him, even if there is a chance that maybe instead of ending up in, middling playoff purgatory, like I feel like you can with Darnold, JJ McCarthy's more of a bust and you have to move on from him. You have to rebuild. I'll take the Super Bowl upside that McCarthy brings, because I think Darnold's kind of no quantity. I can't trust him in big games anymore.
Hypothetically, from an front office perspective, would it be reasonable to franchise tag Sam Darnold, have him in the room, bring on JJ McCarthy, let him potentially start the season? Obviously, you're paying him the big bucks, but we saw it with Penix and Cousins as well. But let JJ McCarthy start the season. If he's tremendously successful by the trade deadline, move Sam Darnold, see what you can get for him. Or if he turns out to be, really struggling potentially, letting Sam Darnold come back and play, is that potentially reality that we could see? Otherwise, there's some teams, like I look at the Browns, like they're a team that's too veteran to go draft and build around a young quarterback at their position in the draft, where maybe a bridge quarterback like Sam Darnold will make more sense.
I don't think that you can tag Darnold and then sit him, because if you're going to play JJ McCarthy, you're looking at McCarthy as your future franchise QB. You got to spend that money, and it would be a lot of money. That would be upwards of $40 million, I believe.
Yeah.
You got to spend that on offensive line, which they need. I know that they already have a lot of great pass catchers. You could get even deeper there, invest in pieces on the defense, because the best asset in the NFL is a QB on a rookie contract. If you're starting JJ McCarthy, you don't just want to find out if he's good. You want to contend for a Super Bowl on the chance that he is that type of quarterback. And there's no better window to do it than when you're not paying your QB a lot of money. I think they've got to clear Sam Darnold off the books. And some I just thought of, I don't think that you need to have a player for multiple years to get a compensatory pick. You let Darnold walk. There are a lot of QB needy teams, and this is not a very good quarterback draft. He's going to be in high demand. Somebody is going to give Darnold a lot of money. You get a nice little compensatory pick out of that. You get a little bit younger. I like that a lot for them. I think the Vikings are in a good spot, even if this was kind of a disappointing way for their 14-3 story to end.
Yeah, with you on that. Let's speed run a couple of predictions coming up for the divisional round. We'll start in the AFC, Texans and Chiefs.
I think the Chiefs they're too sound to lose to the Texans. This is a team that knows how to win the close games. They know how to capitalize on mistakes. The Chargers don't really have that one dude in coverage to lock down Nico Collins. I think that the Chiefs do in Trent McDuffie. I've got a lot of faith in Kansas City to win this one. I don't think this is where Mahomes' season ends. Chiefs 27-13.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs too. This is what we like to call the Arrowhead Invitational, kind of this whole process now. And this is a good Chiefs team. This is a team that hasn't been as dominant, but they've found ways to win the close games. And when you can do that in the playoffs, watch out. This is a good Chiefs team. I think that, if there's winner of Ravens, obviously winner of Ravens Bills will play them, but the winner, that's going to be the best test. Whoever comes out of that game at some point, I don't think that the Texans can stand. We saw it on, I believe it was Christmas Day. This is a Chiefs game by a lot. I think Chiefs win double digits. Commanders, Lions. We talked about, you mentioned the Commanders. You don't think get the job done, but when the Lions stand in their way, is that a little bit more solidified?
I don't know if the Commanders defense is going to be able to get a stop against Detroit. Detroit they check every box on offense. They have a fantastic offensive line, and that's really where I look at teams from a roster building perspective. You got a good line. Now your QB's not under pressure. Now you can run the ball. Jared Goff isn't going to have to worry about getting sacked. He's going to play clean. He's going to avoid mistakes. They're going to run the ball with Jahmyr Gibbs. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to do his thing. Lions 35-21.
David Montgomery back as well. So you have that 1-2
Really?
punch. Yeah, I believe he's coming back for
That's
the
terrifying.
Yeah, so watch out for that, no doubt about it. I agree. I think the one thing I will say, I'm not saying that a team can't win a playoff game. I'm saying that they won't win the Super Bowl. I think when you have buzz within your organization about your coordinators, even your head coach, because during this hiring process that is right now, I mean, both offense and defense coordinators for the Lions are top candidates to take jobs. When you have your coaches taking away prep time and taking away team time and going out and taking interviews and doing those types of things, I think that is not a recipe for success. I'd be interested to see a statistic on that, on what the Super Bowl to that kind of ratio is, or the percentage of success. So I don't think the Lions are Super Bowl contenders. A little bit of a hot take, but I think that they can get the job done here and make a run. Rams Eagles, big time game, a couple of good teams. This Rams team, man, they've looked different since Puka and Cooper Kupp have been back, and they look potentially like their Super Bowl selves, but a good Eagles team stands in their way. Who gets the job done?
I've got no idea what to make of the Rams, because on paper, they don't have a super talented defense, and on paper, they should be even better than they are offensively when you've got Matthew Stafford, who's a great QB, with Puka and Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams and a healthied up offensive line. They're just really tough to get a read on. I do think that this is anybody's game, because even though the Eagles are a really complete team all around, I'll match your hot take. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a franchise QB. I think he's okay. I mean, looking at the offensive infrastructure in Philadelphia, elite offensive line, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. You've got Saquon Barkley in the backfield. They don't have a weakness. Everything they have is elite. What's the reason that they weren't blowing up the scoreboard against Green Bay? Jalen Hurts was just kind of eh. So if Matthew Stafford outplays Jalen Hurts, the Rams will be in it. I just can't choose against the Eagles, man. I'll go 24-21 Philly.
For my mental capacity and happiness in myself, I would like the best case scenario to see these Eagles lose. So I'm going to go Rams in this one. I think it's a legitimate shot too. I think this is a good Rams team. I think they really struggle without their top two guys at outside at the wide receiver position. And now that they've been back, they've looked completely different and completely successful. I also said the same thing about the Steelers. So we'll see. Biggest probably game of the playoffs so far, Ravens and Bills. Two-time, MVP candidate A and MVP candidate A2 going at it here. How we feel in this?
This one is a total toss-up based on how the QBs play, in my opinion. For me, it's really all about Lamar. Do we get playoff Lamar that we've seen in the past, or do we get this year's playoff Lamar where he took care of business against the Steelers throughout the regular season? He was absolutely lights out, hardly makes any mistakes, because the Ravens defense, they went from a pretty okay unit to one of the best in the NFL. The secondary has settled in. One thing they're doing that's really interesting is they've moved Kyle Hamilton out of the slot back to having him as a safety. So he's got a nose for the football. He's making sure that the top of the defense stays on. They're not getting beat deep. This is a really good all-around Ravens team. But the Bills have Josh Allen. And when Josh Allen is on, he is the most unbeatable player in the NFL. And I have in my notes Ravens 28-27, but I can't do it. Bills 28-27. I'm going to switch it up.
Wow. I think the addition of Derrick Henry for the Baltimore Ravens was A++. I mean, if there was like textbook version, if there was a textbook example of how to add a position in free agency, it was that. And it just makes so much sense for their franchise. And I think that's why we saw a different version of Lamar Jackson in the wild card round. This is a completely different team. It provides a different aspect. Obviously, you knew you had to stop Lamar's legs, but when you add Derrick Henry's legs that are like double the size, maybe triple the size of Lamar's legs, that's very hard to game plan and very hard to figure out. But I really like Josh Allen in this year. I think that there's just something about this year for Josh Allen. I think that they get the job done. I think if either one of these teams were in the position of the Texans, they would beat the Chiefs. but now I think this is the best team and the second best team in the AFC right now, and they're going at it. And it's unfortunate they're playing against each other in the divisional round. But if one of these teams were playing the Chiefs at this point, I think they could beat them. And whoever does, I think they continue to beat them in the championship game and go to the Super Bowl. So this is going to be a good one. I think I just got to go with the Bills, but this is it's just kind of an unfortunate draw for the two teams because they have a difficult roadblock to get over in this one. But I think this could be the game of the year potential for sure. But there's game of the decade since this is going to be lights out I believe it's in Buffalo. I'm not sure what the weather is, but if you get a little bit of snow flurry up there, watch out. This could be something else.
It's just a straight up marquee matchup. This is a Super Bowl caliber game that we get in the divisional round. I'm super excited.
Should be a lot of fun. Elson Gratz, that's all we got on the agenda. This is a one-on-one episode. It really was. I can't wait to be able to have him back on and be able to, people as well. Had a lot of fun. Elson Gratz, thanks for joining me today.
We'll see you next one.
All right. Elson Gratz, Ethan Rosensteel. Hey, next week, this time we'll be in Tulsa and Milwaukee respectively. So this is going to be a little bit of a different look. You won't see this beautiful background of mine. Maybe AI can do a lot of cool things and you won't see the public library appearances. Any hecklers at all in the second part of the episode?
Oh, wow. A lot of media out there for when I leave the room.
Yeah, we'll make sure we'll get a couple bodyguards out there so you can get a clean look. TMZ is probably there. So, yeah, watch your step. Who knows what they got.
Can't get away from the paparazzi. It's brutal.
Unbelievable here. Monroe, Wisconsin. Ethan Rosensteel, Elson Gratz saying so long.